Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Sports Garden, your favorite podcast all about sports. I'm your host, Ruben Dario Chavez Jr., aka Ray Chava. With me, as always, my co-host and good friend, Joel Mordelini, aka Bets with Joel. Look, guys, we have been blessed with a great playoffs. I know that the last game of the Nuggets was very sad for a lot of us because it wasn't competitive, and for me, it killed my amazing slip that I almost hit.
That would have been sick.
It would have been crazy, but up to this point, we've had some competitive series, a lot of close games, and it's been. I know that they always say it's a changing of the guard, but this one really feels like a changing of the guard. Like, we have four teams that haven't won in decades. Like the Timberwolves and the Pacers have never won. Oklahoma technically won when they were the Supersonics, although, like, if you're a fan of the Oklahoma City Thunder, chances are you live in Oklahoma and you wouldn't A, count that, and B, have been around in 1979 when they won, and you wouldn't have obviously been cheering for them. So, take that with a grain of salt. It'll feel like the first championship for them if they win it. And then for the Knicks, it's been since the 70s when they went back to back. So they've also gone a long time. But yeah, those are the matchups. I guess we'll start with the Western Conference because they play tomorrow, and it's the Minnesota Timberwolves. They're taking on the Oklahoma City Thunder, as I kind of mentioned. This one, again, if there's one that encapsulates passing of the guard, like, the Wolves haven't been to this point this consistently since Garnett was there. Like, think about that. Like, when Garnett was an MVP, they made it to the Western Conference Finals. They got knocked out by the Lakers back in 2001. And now, 2 years back-to-back, they're going there. They're going off of the back of their superstar, Anthony Edwards. But there's also, they made a big trade in the offseason. People thought they were crazy. They brought in Julius Randle. Julius Randle has been cooking for them. Rudy Gobert still defending extremely well. That team looks deep, exciting. And they took care of the Lakers in 5. They took care of the Warriors in 5. So Anthony Edwards, the official legend killer, according to Randy Orton himself, who posted about it on Twitter. And they're going up against Oklahoma again, a team that, look, I always look at them as just Oklahoma. Like, I know technically they have the Seattle history, but I don't consider them the Supersonics. But think about that. They had Kevin Durant, James Harden, Russell Westbrook, and they made one NBA Finals, and they lost to the Heat. Since then, they've had talented teams. They've had teams that have made the playoffs, but it's never felt quite that good. This team feels that good. This team that was number one in the West, that last season was super exciting. It feels like everything's coalescing. Obviously, SGA, MVP, he's electric, but it's the supporting cast that's really stepping up. Alex Caruso was guarding the hell out of Jokic yesterday, to the point that Nuggets fans were getting super upset that no fouls were being called. Jalen Williams is balling. Chet Holmgren, Lou Dort. Like, that's a team that could have like a 9-10 man rotation, so they can beat you in a lot of ways. First game will be tomorrow night, 8:30 in Oklahoma City. Joel, I want to get your thoughts about kind of where you see this series going, because it's in one hand, it's the best team throughout the regular season, but on the other hand, like, the Wolves have been here before. This is the furthest Oklahoma's been in a while.
Yeah, and speaking of, like, how far these teams have been, OKC is still kind of new to this, at least this core of OKC. It's a very young team, not a whole lot of playoff experience. Granted, like, beating the Nuggets in 7, like, that's a good way to get some experience for sure. So it's going to be an interesting series. Like, the books, they really have the Thunder as, like, heavy favorites, and I sort of, like, I get it, because if you look at both the teams, like, Thunder are basically the better team in just about every way imaginable, at least in my opinion. They're just a deeper team, I think, like, when you consider the bench and everything. But yeah, I think it's going to be closer than what the books are kind of telling us it's going to be. I have a hard time doubting, like, Anthony Edwards in this Minnesota team. Like, every time we doubt them, they kind of just prove us wrong. You know, no one expected them to beat the Lakers. They took care of business. No one expected them to beat the Warriors. Obviously, Steph getting hurt kind of changed the landscape of things there, but they still, you know, took care of business. And so I'm going to be really interested in this first game to see if the time off, like the rest advantage that they have over OKC, is if that will play a factor or not, because OKC, it's such a young team that I'm not necessarily convinced that that rest advantage is going to help them. I actually think it might hurt Minnesota in the sense that like OKC has been playing, you know, meaningful basketball every other day for, you know, the past week, whereas like Minnesota, on the other hand, they've kind of been off for almost like 5 days or whatever it is, right? So I'm very curious to see how this first game goes. And then I went back and looked, like this season, they played 4 times. The series was split 2-2. So
Yep.
yeah, to me, like I don't think it's gonna be a wash or like a one-sided series, but I do think it's gonna be important to see how Minnesota starts the series, if they can start the series on the right foot and get a win in one of the first 2 games. Because I think if you go down 2 and they head home, like I could see OKC taking a game there. So you don't want to be down 3-1 going back to OKC. So yeah, I think the beginning of this series is going to be the most important, and I'm really curious to see how that rest, if it does end up being an advantage or if it turns out to be a disadvantage. So yeah, curious if you have any opinion on the rest kind of thing that I was just talking about, and then
Rest versus rust, yeah.
And then obviously let us know, you know, your thoughts on the series. And I guess I didn't really share who I think's gonna win, so I'll get into
It's
that.
like you were leaning
Yeah, like
under, but not like heavy.
I do expect the Thunder to win, but like I wouldn't be shocked if Minnesota wins the series, just because of the Anthony Edwards effect. Like he just has that clutch factor, and I think like SGA, I don't know if he's gonna show up in the big moments. So, but I think this series will definitely, you know, it'll be defined. Like we'll find out the answers. So, curious to hear what you think.
I am super excited for this series. Obviously, in an alternate universe, the Lakers are here instead of the Wolves, and I'm even happier. But to be honest, when you look over the course of the entire season, I think in the West, it's hard to say that there are 2 better teams than these 2. Like, I know the Wolves came in as like a 6th seed, I think. But, you know, when you add into the fact that they spent most of the year learning how to play with Julius Randle, with like, you know, adjusting to trading for Dante DiVincenzo. It took them a while, I think, to become the best version of themselves. And now that version of themselves has coalesced, you see why they made the trade. Like, Julius Randle was always a bit of a risky trade. I think people who are negative about Julius Randle point to his inefficiencies, not always locked in defensively, can struggle with offense sometimes, forces bad shots. But if you're a Julius Randle truther like me, who cheered for him when he was on the Lakers, you realize that his game offensively can score at 3 levels. He's very confident. He's like a strong body. The problem was he's not really like a center. You need a center near him. And the Wolves had that in Rudy Gobert. And Rudy Gobert kind of takes the pressure off of Randle in a defensive sense better than anyone else can. Because again, despite my feelings about Rudy Gobert, he is a defensive player of the year multiple times over. He obviously is good at helping from the weak side and locking the paint down, which is, it gives Randle cover. So he's been a real X factor for them. I actually have the Wolves winning this, but I think it's going to be a fight. And that's why I do think the rest is going to pay off. Like, it's not that I think that the Thunder are going to be too tired to bounce back from the Nuggets. Like, ultimately, I think you nailed it. You know, for a young Thunder team that has never been this far, you have to win those games. You have to prove that you can win them. And winning Game 7 at home in front of your fans against a team that has been an NBA champion in recent memory, against, you know, I don't care if he lost, you know, and I have my own favorite player in the NBA, but Nikola Jokic is the best player in the NBA. Like, it doesn't matter if he's the MVP this year or not. Like, this was a Nuggets team that had Michael Porter Jr. with one arm, had Aaron Gordon in that last game with like
no
one
hamstring. Yeah.
had Russell Westbrook doing his best to throw that game away, and it was still close. Like, they still pushed them to 7 games. Yeah, they got, blown up, but like, until Jokic went to the bench, the Nuggets were hanging in there.
Yeah.
They just couldn't afford to sit him because they had nobody else to help them. So, but I think if the Wolves defense plays the way that it has been, and you have guys like Nickeil, Walker, Alexander, really locking them down, SGA is gonna get his. He's too crafty. He's too shifty. He knows how to get to the line and make the most of his offense. But in that series against the Nuggets, no one else really stepped up to carry the scoring load when stuff was getting tough for SGA. Like, Williams had a bad series overall, pretty inconsistent. Guys like Alex Caruso and Lou Dort are really good defensively, but they're not like knockdown 3-point shooters, and they're not offensive systems unto themselves. Chet Holmgren, again, showed flashes, and he played pretty good. Is Chet Holmgren going to be able to bully Rudy Gobert and Julius Randle? Like, no. So it'll be interesting to see what secondary scoring they can get, and that's where I have the Timberwolves with an edge. And it's just like, I don't know, so like there's something about this Anthony Edwards run. There's just something about it.
I feel it.
He seems to have it, like he really does. Like in the games against the Lakers and the Warriors, those teams would make runs, the games would be close, and he would just hit threes. He would get to the line, he would drive, he would make a big play. And Randle, again, all credit to him as well. People thought the book was written on Randle. Like, people that 2 of the 4 teams, and we'll talk about the other one, but 2 of the 4 teams in the conference finals made a massive trade for what you could consider their second best player, and they're both, in the conference finals again. But that lets you know what they felt about those players, right? Like, the Knicks felt, okay, Randle caps us. He's never gonna get his offense to the level that we need, and the Wolves obviously felt that Anthony Edwards, that Karl Anthony Towns wasn't going to be able to give them what they wanted. Somehow they
looks like it worked out. Yeah.
Like it might be just as simple as, like, Karl Anthony Towns needed a change of venue, and the second they made that trade, it became Anthony Edwards' team. There was no remaining link to the old days. There was no remaining link to the Jimmy Butler days or the Kevin Love days. There's a whole new franchise now, maybe that's what it is, but I don't know. I really believe in the Timberwolves. I think it's going to be a long series, though. I think this goes to Game 7, and I think the Timberwolves win it in Oklahoma on the road. I think it's like, this is going to be a coming out party, and this is how important, like, narrative and things like this are in sports. If Anthony Edwards can take this team to the finals and even win, like, this was his Dwayne Wade 2006 championship where nobody thought that they were going to do it, and then one player just wills them there, and then he's going to go, like, he'll go down as a GOAT already. Like, he'll be one of, in people's minds, he's immediately like a top 10 shooting guard of all time, just based on his production and the fact that he's winning a ring so quickly into his career. Like, it could be massive for him. And I don't know what it is about that team right now, but the way that they're playing, the fact that they were there last year and saw kind of how they fell a little bit short, I think I think they'll have more in the tank. And it helps that they've won their series in 5 games. I do think it helps because, I mean, we saw, like, I think a bit of it is sour grapes, but Aaron Gordon, after the loss, did say that the NBA should look at how quick the games are in succession and maybe more rest because players keep getting hurt. He pointed to himself, Jaylen Brown, and Jason Tatum, obviously, all having various degrees of injuries throughout this post-season, and like those miles add up. Anthony Edwards' legs are still pretty fresh. He's only had to be out there for 5 games, 2 series in a row. Same with the rest of them. But what about bets? Are there any bets that you like? Not just
I do
the first game maybe, but for the series.
Yeah, so I don't have anything down for the game, like in particular games yet. I'll probably take a look at that. Like when the game comes tomorrow, and then if there is anything, I'll post it out there. You guys can follow on the socials. But in terms of the series, I do have some stuff for both sides. And so for this series, my favorite pick is the over 5.5 games. We kind of talked about, I think ultimately, like, I do give a lot of advantages to the Thunder, but the thing that I give to the Wolves, which is probably the biggest of all, is like the clutch factor of Anthony Edwards. Like, I believe in him to make that clutch play, and like, I'm not sure if SGA is that guy yet. So yeah, like, I really like this to go over 5.5 games. I don't see the Thunder winning the series 4-1. I think 4-2 at worst. So
I agree.
And like, I do think there's a path that, like Ruben said, the Wolves could win the whole thing outright. So rather than try to back the Wolves, because I do think the Thunder will win, I can just play this, and it still kind of backs what I think is going to happen, which is the Wolves will win 2 games. So that's kind of all I need for this to hit, really, unless the Wolves just like won the series 4-1. Which
That'd be crazy.
I also don't envision.
It seems hard to believe for sure.
Well, what about you? Any bets on the series or the game in particular?
Yeah, I like your bet a lot. I thought about betting specifically like total games and doing like the over of the 5.5. One thing I do like, if you are like me and you do believe that the Wolves are gonna win, like, there are 2 heavy favorites for the Finals MVP here in the Western Conference. Stay is minus 310, so not really great value. Like, obviously, if you think the Thunder are going to win, he's probably going to be the one to win it. So I don't think that's a bet worth making unless you're going to put like 1,000 to win, like, whatever. Like, but that seems kind of dumb to me. And to show you how much water they think he's going to carry, like, of the top 5 people, like, he's the only one with negative odds.
Yeah.
Like, they really think he's going to win it. But on the flip side, Anthony Edwards, he has the best odds for a Wolves player to win it. Plus 360 on FanDuel to be the Western Conference Finals MVP. Look, if you think that they're going to win the series like I do, and you try to picture who is going to be the conference finals MVP, it's really either him or Julius Randle has a great series, but also has a game that he wins. Like, if both Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle have like solid games all throughout, and the Wolves win in 6 or 7, it'll still go to Anthony Edwards. But if there's like 1 or 2 games where Julius Randle drops like 30 points and AE only hits like 15, or has like a bit of a harder night, then you might be able to sneak it. I might sprinkle a little on Julius Randle at plus 2,500, because that's like pretty juicy for who I think is the secondary player that could win it for the Wolves. But Anthony Edwards, Western Conference Finals MVP. If you think the Wolves are going to win, it's kind of a no-brainer. It's plus money, and he's logically the only answer that you could feel comfortable with betting on the Wolves in that, if that does come to pass, right? So
Yeah.
Plus 360. I like it a lot. Yeah.
I like it. Sorry to cut you off. I was just going to say that if you like the Wolves to win this series, then I think it's also worth betting right now Anthony Edwards to be the NBA Finals MVP, because if you do it now versus after they win the series, Shea wouldn't exist in the odds, and then he will be second in odds or first with Jalen Brunson. So you can get him right now at plus 700 for the Finals MVP. So if you think the Wolves are going to the Finals, you bet that now, in my opinion. But yeah, just one that I thought I'd like to share.
For sure. Yeah, that's a good one. Another one that I kind of like, most points of the series. Again, Shea's negative money, but again, if you believe in the Wolves winning and you believe in Anthony Edwards having a good enough series to be the MVP, plus 170, he's a big part of that offense. I could see it cashing in. You have to remember, like, SGA is going to get the Wolves' best defenders, and they have a lot of length that they could throw at him. It could be a long series for them. Those are two things that just jumped out at me. Game to game, I'm with Joel. I might tweet some things out if I like a thing, and give it to you like that. But the series being over 5.5 games was one. The Western Conference Finals MVP was another one. There's also a fun little prop bet on FanDuel. Plus one or more games to go to overtime is plus 210. Two or more to go overtime plus 1900. These are two pretty evenly matched teams. We've had a lot of like close games this playoffs. I don't know, plus two or more is a bit risky. That's a lot.
I could see one.
I could see one going. Yeah. So like for plus 190, just like a cheeky little bet, I don't hate that.
And they also had one of their 4 games this year went to overtime as well. So.
Yep. It's the one where the Wolves came back in a major way and ended up beating the Thunder, even though they were down like 20 or 30 points or something. That's crazy. Those are some the bets that I really liked, because I do think that if you do believe in the Wolves, it's kind of like what Joel said. Like if you believe in the Wolves to make the finals, putting a bet in for Anthony Edwards is both the Western Conference MVP and the Finals MVP right now is the smartest thing. Because for every game they win, those odds will get worse. So you better for the books, right? So you kind of have to.
You might as well
stall out now. Yeah.
But I think that pretty much wraps up everything we had on the West. Unless you had any more.
Sure. That you wanted no. I think we're both excited. I think it's going to be a great series. And again, like looking at the rest of the teams that got eliminated, like I wouldn't want to see them playing a Warriors team with a beat up Steph Curry.
Yeah.
And like an aging Draymond Green. Even the Lakers, right? People forget like that last game, both Luka and LeBron were injured, right? Luka had his back thing. LeBron had like a knee thing. These are the two most healthiest, most complete teams we could have gotten in the West. So I'm very happy for that.
And I do love it as well for the extra angle of like how you mentioned at the top, like it's the changing of the guard. It's a new era. And I think that's really encapsulated here. And then on top of the fact that we're getting basically a team that's been in a hell of a drought winning the title at the end of all of this. So I think that's pretty awesome too.
It is cool. I saw this stat earlier before we move on to the Eastern Conference because it's relevant for them as well. This will be the first time in the entirety that the NBA's existed that there will be 7 different champions in 7 years.
Wow.
That's sweet. That's how much parity there is, and like as a fan of a team who obviously benefited from when all the stars could just be on one team and the salary cap was easier to manipulate. It's a bummer for me in terms of watching Lakers dynasties, but as a fan who loves basketball and just wants to see the best games, you gotta admit it's pretty cool that we have 4 teams, 3 of which are from smaller markets who have superstars that people want to watch. Like that's just fun. It makes the sport great. Like it's cool. It's cool that they don't all play in Los Angeles or New York or wherever, right? Like it's very cool. Speaking of New York, though, brought it back. The Knicks, baby, the Knicks. Oh, Kevin Durant, don't you wish you would have gone to the Knicks? So yes, the New York Knickerbockers, they beat the Boston Celtics in 6 games. Obviously, Celtics fans will say that Jason Tatum got hurt, Jaylen Brown got hurt. To that, I say last season, a lot of players got hurt for you to win. That's just the nature of the draw. But the Knicks have shown incredible toughness and guile and resilience. And Jaylen Brown, there's a reason he got Clutch Player of the Year. It feels like every time the game is within like 10 points, he's just going to go crazy. Like he just scores buckets. And if you're a Raptors fan, this series is going to make you sad because on one side you have OG Anunoby, who was, a player that Raptors fans were really high on, and he'll be going up against Pascal Siakam, another player that Raptors fans were really high on. As the Pacers, they took care of the Cavs a lot easier. Again, injury problems there for the Cavs, but we talked about it in the preview to that podcast because the first game had already happened. The Cavs kind of felt like the Hawks from 10 years ago, and it kind of played out that way. The top-end talent just wasn't there. But these are 2 teams that play good defensively, play fun offense, and have a lot of interesting names. Again, on the Pacers, it's Tyrese Halliburton, it's Pascal Siakam, it's Miles Teller. For the Knicks, it's Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart, and Karl Anthony Towns. Sprinkle in some Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby there for good measure as well. And if you're a real historian of the game, guys, like this is just the 90s are back. This is the Knicks versus the Pacers. If you have a Disney Plus membership, or if you have other ways of watching the ESPN 30 for 30s before the first game tips off on Wednesday night, I recommend you watch Winning Time, the documentary about the rivalry between the Knicks and the Pacers in the 90s, because it really sets the stage for this and why there's this weird connection and rivalry between these two teams even now after all these years of them being okay to good to bad. And there's a wrestling angle here too. Triple H himself reminded everybody Jalen Brunson and Tyrese Halliburton were at a WWE show, and they each like balleted for a wrestlers who were like having a feud. So this is already a matchup that's been in WWE. They were on opposing sides then, and they're on opposing sides now. I saw a mock-up of the poster where they did it with like the WrestleMania 10 font. It looked cool. So both series have the wrestling angle. Obviously, like the Lakers are out, but I have a soft spot in my heart for the Knicks, as my parents used to live in New York. For the Knicks, if they make it through this series, it will be the first time they made the finals since 1999-2000 series, where they ended up losing to the Spurs. And for the Pacers, it'll be the first time since they made it with Reggie Miller, actually. I think they made it the season after, if I remember correctly, because they were the first team to lose to the Dynasty Lakers. They lost to that version of the Lakers, and then because the Lakers beat the Pacers, the Sixers, and then eventually the Nets in that order, I think. And then they lost to the Pistons and whatever. But yes, all this to set up a pretty fun matchup. And again, in the East, you could argue that the Celtics were the best team during the year. When it came time to get it done, though, the Knicks showed their worth. How do you feel about this series? Because this one also feels hard to call to me, and I have a bias here, and it feels hard to call.
So I think with this series, the biggest question mark for me is like, is this Pacers team legit, or are they just getting the benefit of going against injured teams? Because I just don't know what to make of them beating a decimated Cavs team, beating a banged up Milwaukee Bucks team. Like, is this team going to go toe for toe with the Knicks, or are they just going to lose the series 4-1 or 4-2? Like, that's kind of where I'm at in my head. Like, my confidence level obviously is on the Knicks. Like, if you guys have been following the program for the past few weeks, you know, I have that Knicks to win it all ticket in my back pocket, and we got over the Celtic hump. So to me, like, this team is going to the finals. But can the Pacers put a wrench in that plan? I think that's kind of the fun question that we're all excited to find out the answer to. And I do think that answer comes down to, like I said, like, is this team legit? Are they a real contender, or have they just been the beneficiary of, you know, running into some injured teams? So I think until we get that question answered, it's going to be kind of hard to say. I do think that the Knicks are the better team. I do think that this Knicks team has the juice and is going to go all the way. Whether they win it in the finals is a whole other story. And then just to touch on Reggie Miller, I'm pretty sure he's going to be calling all the games.
He's calling all the games. This is the last series he'll be calling, I think, or the last series that ABC, like, whatever broadcast works for, it's their license has run out, and there's been shifting of like who's going to get what broadcast games. So yeah, he's going to be calling this series, and it's just so great.
So yeah, I think that'll be interesting to listen to him and his biases. But and then yeah, if I went back and looked, like, the Knicks won the season series 2-1, and all of the games were not very close. So it was kind of like one team was just destroying the other. for the most part. But yeah, the Pacers, the game that they won was in Indiana, and then the Knicks took one in Indiana and won one at the Garden as well. But yeah, I still feel pretty good about the Knicks in this situation, but I am excited to see if the Pacers can make it a series. I do think, similar to the West, like it could be a 4-1, 4-2 type thing, or this could be a series that goes the distance. So very curious. We're gonna have to wait and see. What do you think about this series?
Yeah, I will say, as close as I think it is in terms of, I do think either team could win. I know that there's concerns, like you said, and you brought them up, and it's correct. Like, the Pacers have benefited from facing, I mean, they beat the Bucks, who were beat up, and, you know, like, it's an interdivisional matchup, so you kind of know that team really well. Add on to the fact that there was some injuries there, it kind of like it makes it easier. And then they go up against the Cavs, who I think are also in their division, in that like Midwest division or whatever it's called, the Central maybe, I don't whatever. But then there's injuries there. The Pacers, to be fair, have been here before. Last year they also made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. A lot of that was also through injury. They played the Knicks after OG went down, and et cetera, et cetera. It will be interesting to see how they do again. Now they're facing a team that's healthy, that is fully prepared for them and ready to go. And a team that's going to be flying high after, for all intents and purposes, kind of stealing Boston's lunch. Like, everybody went into that series expecting Boston to win. Even after that first Knicks win, like we did a podcast, and the series bets, like Vegas still heavily believed that the Celtics were going to win that series. Now, obviously, the Jason Tatum injury changes a lot, but even in the games Tatum was there, the Knicks won a few of those and were battling in all of them, right? So it was impressive what they did. I do think the Knicks are going to win. The only thing that prevents me from saying that they could wrap it up in like 5 or 4 is that I do think, because of the history of this matchup, and like maybe that's a weird thing to bank on, but like I know those Pacers fans are going to be ready for blood. Like, if you watch that doc, or if you know anything about the contention that these two fan bases had for each other, it's going to be like a fortress. Like, and I think of the teams that are left, like the Knicks have a crazy fan base. We've all seen the videos on TikTok and social media, but like, we also saw like the tickets for Game 6, like the cheapest tickets were like $1,000. So you price out a lot of those crazier people. They're like further up, you know, they can't affect what's happening as much. The Wolves, the Thunder, and the Pacers all benefit from being smaller markets, where the tickets are always going to still be relatively as cheap as an NBA Conference Finals ticket can be. And again, small things like, I bet you all the Pacers fans are going to do like a whiteout thing, or like everybody
they wear yellow, I think. Yep.
Yeah, and that's intimidating, and that it creates like a cauldron. It's harder to do that with the Knicks, where like their fans are rabid, and even the people who go there who are like famous, a lot of them care. But like, Kylie Jenner's not gonna not wear an outfit that's supposed to be made for Instagram just because she's sitting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I get what you mean. Yeah.
So I do think the fans will play a role in this. How much they'll play, I guess, remains to be seen. I do think it'll go at least 6 games. I think that the Knicks can wrap it up in 6, but I am excited for it. Again, speaking on bets that, like Joel says, if you think the Knicks are going to win it all, get your Jalen Brunson MVP finals tickets in right now. He's plus 550. He's right behind Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. And again, every game the Knicks win, his odds will get a little worse for you. And in the unlikely, according to the book's outcome, that Shea loses and the Knicks win, Jalen Brunson is going to be the number 1 option, and then the value is going to be gone. So if you think he's going to be there, and you believe that he can win it all, good time to place the bet. On the flip side, again, if you believe the Pacers are going to get through there, and you think they can win it all, Tyrese Halliburton's plus 1,000. Like, those are the kind of bets you make now so that you get good value on it when it does get to that point, right? For the series, there's like a fun one. They have a lot of like players points things or whatever.
Yep.
One of them is Jalen Brunson to score 45 points in any game. Now that's a lot. It's plus 360. But like, there's going to be a game he takes over. There's going to be. And I think that there's going to be a game where he's going to have to do that. So I'm probably going to put something down on that. If you want to go for just more consistency's sake, there's one for him to score 25 points each game plus 600. The only reason I'd stay away from that is that, like Joel said, there have been some blowouts in this. And if the Pacers offense does dry up, the Knicks could just blow him out of the gym. And if that happens, Brunson sits a third quarter here or there, a fourth quarter, he doesn't play the whole thing. Those ones are trickier. I never want to think that there won't be a blowout. We've been very lucky so far that every game, for the most part, has been competitive. I don't know if I would trust that. So I do like the Jalen Brunson to score 45 points in a game. Another one I like that's not crazy like value, it's only plus 190, but Josh Hart to record a triple-double in any game. He's a player that fills up the box score. He's usually hovering around 8 to 10 boards a night, 8 to 10 assists a night, and he scores around 10 points. Like, he's going to be open and make the right play. That's what he does. You're giving me 6 games for him to hit a triple-double? Yeah, I'll take that. Those are some things I like, and kind of like what Joel said about the other series, I do think it'll last at least 6 games. So the series spread, or not the series spread, sorry, the series total games, or the over-under, sorry, I would do the over 5.5. I don't want to believe that a team will just win this in 5.
Yeah.
I think they're too close for that.
And I will say, too, that, like, I wasn't trying to take anything away from the Pacers, like, because in the end, you have to play who you have to play, right? Like, they're not...
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So, I mean, the fact that, like, we're talking about they're playing these injured teams, we're not saying that they're not a good team. It's just kind of like, we don't know the true, like, who this Pacers team is yet, truly. And we will find out in this series. If they're a legit team, then that means they're going to put up a fight and get at least 2 to 4 wins here. If not, then they might roll over and only get 1 or 2 wins. So that's kind of like what I'm waiting to see and I'm excited for. In terms of this series, though, there is 2 bets that I like. You guys know I've got the Knicks to win it all, so give me the Knicks to win the series. You can get that at like minus 155, which is like still pretty playable in my opinion. And then Knicks minus 1.5 games as well. I do think that they win 4-2, maybe 4-1. I'm of the camp that, like, I think they're the clear-cut better team, and that, this Pacers team, I do think there is something to be said about, like, the road that they got to this point. Like, to me, the Knicks have just been playing some, like, very high-level basketball, and I think the Pacers have kind of had, like, some, again, not to take anything away from them, but kind of like some more positive situations. So I don't know. I do just think like the Knicks ultimately are going to take care of business, but yeah, we're going to find out. So I'm looking forward to it. And besides that,
adding to that, like, even the books think it's more likely for the Knicks to win 4-1 than it is to win 4-2. Like 4-1 is plus 430. 4-2 is plus 570. So I think there is still some healthy skepticism on how real the Pacers are.
Yeah, and rightfully so, right? But, I think we'll find out pretty quick in this series once we get a game in. So I think that's kind of like my approach. Probably lay off the first game and kind of just like wait and see in terms of
first
like...
games are tricky to bet. Like,
yeah,
even for the spread, like the let's see, the spread in the Wolves is minus 7.5 for Oklahoma, and then the Knicks are favored by minus 4.
4.5,
yeah. I see it at 4 on FanDuel right now, but even that, like we've said, blowouts have been a thing. I'd be more comfortable taking the Knicks. 4 points is not a lot, but like a 7.5 line, even though I think Oklahoma's a really good team, the Wolves, I could see them covering it. I could also see the Wolves getting blown out because of the rust. So
Yeah.
I do think the first game is going to be more of like a feel out game for us. Even like I like these long-term bets because I think this is how I see the whole thing playing out.
Yeah, and it's fun to test your kind of like back your knowledge against the series and see
For sure.
who's right, like you or like what did you miss. So it's kind of like a fun little game you get to play throughout the whole series, and then obviously, like you said, like you can still dive into the single games here and there when you feel like you like something, right?
Yeah, because again, I think the thing, if you're looking at these games, look at kind of what the defenses are giving away, look at the players that are getting open, look at the people who are getting the opportunities, right? Because it's not like we can be here and we can be like, obviously we're expecting a big game from Shea or Brunson or Anthony Edwards. Yeah, well, Oklahoma's going to do everything they can to prevent that. So the first game, I want to see what Anthony Edwards is going to do to make them pay, what he's going to do to still score, and who's going to be the beneficiary of it, right? Because it's like, if they really do ice Edwards out, and Randall looks like he's going to have to take on a lot of the responsibility to score, get your Julius Randle finals, the Western Conference MVP tickets if they end up making it through, because he's going to, by the sheer nature of being the guy who has to step up if Edwards kind of struggles a bit. But
exactly. And I think, yeah, like with each game you get more information and you can make better choices. So that's kind of why, like Ruben said, maybe hold off on that first game or just go light if you guys want to have something. Obviously it's fun to have something to root for, but that's kind of why it's also fun to play the series too, because there is, the first game is affecting your series bets. So but yeah, like I think we mentioned it earlier, if we do make any plays for the individual games, you guys just stay connected on the socials. Everything will be there on Twitter. So go ahead and follow. I think there will be the link to follow it in the description of the video. But yeah, in terms of the conference finals, any final thoughts? What's your final thoughts, and maybe let us know what's your dream finals situation with these four teams left.
I was about to ask you the same thing. So again, I'll start with the West. I'm sorry, Oklahoma fans. Like, genuinely, whoever wins out of the West, I'll be happy to a certain degree, because Anthony Edwards or Shea is going to have a chance to win a championship. And if you think about it, like, if Shea wins, is that the first Canadian to win an NBA championship as the leader of a team? Like, I know Jamal has won a couple. There have been other Canadian players,
like the face of the franchise,
Rick Fox, but like, Steve Nash never won one, and that's probably the closest Canada ever got to having like a face of the franchise kind of guy in that realm, like into the finals. So that would be huge for Canada. It would kind of like show like the face of the NBA could be a Canadian kid who grew up like in Hamilton.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. But ultimately, I want the Wolves to win. I picked them. I think they can win. Part of the reason I want them to win is because I do think Anthony Edwards is just like, he's that guy. He has like whatever it is, that thing that you can't quite describe about a player. He just has it. He's a fun watch, and he's really like come into his own. So, but the other part of why I want him to win, I obviously want the Knicks to win, and I think that the storylines there are crazy. Like,
oh, that would be nuts. Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like,
who won the trade?
Yeah. It would literally, and like, Thibodeau used to coach the Wolves back when Karl Anthony Towns was there with Jimmy Butler way back when. Obviously, Cat would be going back up against his old team. Julius Randle would be going up against his old team. So would Dante DiVincenzo.
Oh yeah.
We would get like, we could potentially get like a game 6 or game 7 like in the Garden, like
the narrative
to decide it all. Like, it would be crazy. Like, it would just be so much fun. And again, I think very rarely do you ever get to see who wins a trade in a one-on-one game. Like, you kind of have to go long term and be like, well, did it pay out? Like, did these teams end up getting better in the long run? This would be instantly. Like, we find out that year, because these aren't trades these weren't trades made to make them good 5 years from now. These were trades to get them into the championship again and to win. And for them both to be there and to basically roll the ball out and be like, okay, who was right? Like, is Julius Randle the guy, or is Karl-Anthony Towns the guy? And whoever wins is going to feel vindicated.
Oh, yeah.
And there's something about that. Also, like, I think if the Knicks won the title for the first time in like 50 years, New York might actually like blow up, which would be interesting to see.
It'll be massive.
See the celebration is. So yeah. So I want a Knicks Wolves final. I do think like that's what I'm picking as well.
Okay, so it's both your dream final and the final that you're picking.
It's what I'm picking.
Okay.
I believe that the Knicks are the better team. For the Wolves, I'm basically just banking on this is a special run for Edwards. Like that's it. It really is. Because if I was picking just the better team, Oklahoma's probably the better team. You know, they have a whole season of being the better team.
Right.
But if you're telling me it's the fourth quarter and Anthony Edwards has the ball in his hands to win or lose a game, I'm backing him. I am, and that matters to me in things like this, you know. So, yeah, I'm going Wolves Knicks, both in brain and heart.
I love it.
What about you?
For me, I've also got the Knicks, both in brain and heart. But yeah, in terms of like the series that I want, I'm with you. Like the Wolves versus the Knicks for the finals would just be crazy. Like the storylines write themselves. Like it would be a finals for the ages, I think. But my head tells me that it will be the Thunder against the Knicks. So we'll have to wait and see. But you know, I think either way, we'll be in for a treat come NBA Finals time for sure.
Yeah, I think just the fact the NBA had a real perception problem there in like the 2010s when it was LeBron and Golden State, and everybody kind of felt like, as fun as that was for like narrative when you got to the championship, and you know, if you were a fan of LeBron or the Warriors, obviously you were enjoying being in the biggest game every year. I think it made people feel that the product was really stale, that you kind of knew who was going to make it, and that a lot of teams just weren't able to compete or going to compete. And we've completely flipped that on its head, you know, since the last time the Warriors won that last title of their dynasty. We've had the Raptors win, the Lakers win, the Bucks win, the Nuggets win, the Warriors won another one like years removed from their actual dynasty run, and the Celtics. And obviously, you know, Lakers and Celtics weren't like hurting for championships, but the fact that we haven't even gotten like a back-to-back champion in the NBA speaks to the parity that's going on right now, and that's really fun. Just as like as a neutral observer, you have to admit it's super cool that one of these fan bases is going to get blessed with the best feeling you can get as a fan. Like, so
still don't know that feeling, so
I know it's tough. Yeah, you have to pray for Joel. You see the Leafs blanket last night.
Yeah.
Was tough scenes
just
for all of the Leafs fans.
Embarrassing. It's crazy.
Yeah, just how flat they came up. But yeah, that's all I have to say. Like, I do think we're lucky about the fact that I think no matter who wins these series, we're gonna get a great NBA Finals. And
I agree.
that's really all you can know.
The conference finals should be a banger as well, so we can't wait.
Super exciting. But yeah, so that's it from us today. Yeah, like me and Joel both said, stay in touch with the socials. Follow us on X at the Sports Garden, and you know, keep an eye out for more content. We're obviously going to break down the finals when it comes around. We'll be releasing more NFL videos as the offseason goes on, and then we'll be right back into the swing of things with the NFL season. And as always, if we have any plays the day of, if anything comes up that we want to talk about, we will tweet about it. We love to hear from you guys. So if you have an opinion, if you have a thought, if you have a bet that you like that you don't think we touched on, please let us know, because it's fun to be in a community, and you know, we all love sports and we love trying to make some money. So if you have a lean on something, please share.
Well, I want to know who else is on the Knicks with me, baby. My Knicks fans, get in the comments. Let's go.
Yeah, Knicks fans,
Knicks
get in
up.
the comments and let us
up.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, we'll see you next time.